boys and girls out in YouTube land. This is Clay of Clay's Chevys, and this is going to be my second attempt at this video because after reviewing the first one it seemed like I was angry, and I'm not angry. I'm not an angry person. You can tell by the shirt I'm wearing that I'm not an angry person. So let me try this again. Alright, this is a video response in basically to Mr. Mini Dreams, and there's been several other people too. I think Lazy Eye Modeler, Jan Hayer from our brothers from the Great White North. A lot of people complain about the postal rates and how much shipping costs, and I'm gonna try to explain this. For those of you who don't realize it, I am a letter carrier, or known as a mailman, and I deliver in the city, so I wear a uniform, so I'm a city carrier. I know a little bit about postal rates. Probably some people know a lot more. I've only been doing this job for 22 years, but I deliver the mail, so I don't really know the rates and stuff. Like the clerks at the windows who accept the mail or your packages, they know it a lot better than we do. And the post office is not very good at keeping everybody informed when things change, like rate increases or anything like that. Generally, the general public learns about rate increases before we do. But the U.S. Postal Service is probably the cheapest postal service in the world. And I want you to think about this. Everybody knows how big and wide the United States is. I mean, it goes from all the way south to Hawaii to all the way to the northeast up into Maine. Okay? Now, I can mail a letter. I live in Washington. I can mail a letter to my neighbor down the street for the new rate is 47 cents. For 47 cents. I can also mail a letter to Dr. Cranky in Florida for 47 cents. Or I can mail it to my relatives in Hawaii for 47 cents. There's a lot of countries where you can't do that. You cannot mail from one side to the country to the other. And there's countries, I'm talking about countries a lot smaller than us. Not like Canada has, even though it doesn't have a very big population, it has a big land mass. Okay? Part of the reasons that shipping costs are high, and if you notice, the shipping cost is not so much in the United States. Yes, some of our postal rates have gone up, but that's due to fuel prices and everything else. I mean, we have no control of that. The post office is not a profit. Well, it makes a profit, but it's not a profit-making machine. It's not a private corporation. It's a self-sustaining arm of the government. And what I mean by that is everybody thinks that, well, I pay your salary because I pay my taxes. We always get those mad customers because they didn't get their welfare check or unemployment check or something, and they're mad because I don't have it. Well, I'm sorry to tell them, but unless you buy a stamp, you're not paying my salary. The only revenue the post office makes and the only money it gets is from the sales of postage. So we get zero, big goose egg, or for Gil, the Red Dragon, nada dollars from the taxpayers. Okay? So we're a self-supported government, quasi-government agency. Okay? So when you ship something from, say, Washington State to California, depending on how you want to ship it, there's various rates. You can send a bulk rate, which used to be called fourth class, last class, whatever you want it. And it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get down to San Francisco or something, okay? Or you can send it first class, and it may take a week. Or you can send it priority, and it may take 2 to 3 days. Or you can send it express and have it there overnight, okay? Now, depending on your urgency is the price, because depending on your urgency is how we're going to get it there, okay? If you want something there tomorrow or the next day, it's basically going to have to fly. Okay, we don't own any planes. The U.S. Postal Service has Zippo planes. Okay, so we have to load it onto a commercial airliner. Basically, we rent, those big cargo things that you see them wheeling into the aircraft. We rent those. We pay for space. Now, if you or I were trying to rent one, it would cost us an arm and a leg. But the Postal Service, because of the volume we do with the airlines, we get it at a lot cheaper rate. Okay, so again, depending on how quickly you want it to get there, is how much you're going to pay. Now, the reason it costs so much for us to send it to overseas, whether it's next door to Canada or down to Mexico or across the water to Japan or somewhere in Europe, Britain, Germany, France. Most of us modelers have friends and connections from YouTube that are across the pond. What happens there is that you're first paying for that package to transit across the United States or through the United States. So you're going to pay that rate. Then they have this thing called the terminal dues. And what it is basically like 193 countries, I believe it is. They all got together years ago and decided, they're going to set this dues program up. Because otherwise, in the old days, it was like, okay, well, you're sending something to Germany. Well, it first had to land to France, so France took a piece. Then it went to Germany. This way, everybody got this same piece. Okay, so it doesn't have to go through so many different hands. And again, all these countries signed it, so it's basically the same. So you send it across the United States. You pay that postal rate. Then you pay the terminal fee, and then once it lands in the country that it's going to get delivered, part of that also goes to that country's postal service. So there's at least 3 or 4 hands are getting money. Okay, now when it transits, when the U.S. Postal Service sends things overseas, okay, we primarily use airlines. Okay, so if you're going on vacation to France, okay, your bags go in one container, and there may be another container full of packages and letters and cards and everything from the U.S. Postal Service that is going to France. Now, if we can't get it on a commercial airline, we also have deals with FedEx and UPS, who maintain their own fleet of aircraft and who go to these various countries. So that's an added cost there that, part of the postage you're paying is going to pay these private organizations. So once it's then offloaded off these commercial and private company planes, then it falls into the hands of that country's postal service, and they have to get their part of the postage so they can pay their employees and gas up their trucks, etc., etc. So that's why postage is so expensive, because there's so many hands that your package has to pass through to get to its destination, and each one of those hands wants some money for it. Even sending a letter, I'm only about 300 or 400 miles away from my French relatives who live on Victoria Island, Vancouver Island in Victoria. Sorry, I get that always screwed up. But they're only a couple hours away, so they're like a 3-hour car ride and an hour ferry ride, and I'm at their house. Now I can mail a letter all the way up to the top Washington state, which is almost the same distance, for 47 cents. But as soon as it goes across the border, then the Canadian Postal Service needs a chunk of money. So then the postage rate then goes up to 75 cents. Okay, so it's 38 cents of that postage is going to Canada. See how that works? Okay, so enough about that. And I'm not angry about it. I'm just trying to inform everybody about it, and to let you know a few things. In the past few years, you've heard that the Postal Service is losing billions and billions of dollars, and no, we're not. That's just propaganda. basically, I'm trying to remember when, it's been about 6 or 7 years ago. I think the Bush administration is the one who passed the law, but the Postal Service is required to pre-fund its retirees' health care benefits. The problem is, it's not a big deal. We'd be the only government agency that has to do that. And we're probably the only, I think we are the only company, private or government, that has to do that. The bad part is that we have to do it 75 years in advance. So people that are not even born yet, that may possibly work for the Postal Service, we're paying for them right now. So the tune of that was $5 billion a year. So when you took that away from how much money we made yearly, the U.S. Postal Service, then it looked like we were losing money every year. So, we've always been the piggy bank of Congress. When Social Security starts floundering, they take money from us, blah, blah, blah. We're still here. The problem with privatization is that our country is so vast. We're like Canada, that if we were to try to sell off the U.S. Postal Service into a private organization, it wouldn't work. Now, a lot of countries have gone private. Britain, Germany, Japan is going that way. But then you look at the relative size of those countries, okay? Canada, like us, is really huge, but they only have 25,000 people working for Canada Post because their population is not as great. 47% of all mail in the world, almost half of all the mail in the world is processed through the United States. We touch it, the U.S. Postal Service. We have 493,000 employees. We also deliver to 155 deliveries, addresses. 155 million, in case I skipped a million. 155 million. That's a lot of delivery points, okay? So you think about that and you say, wow, I guess I am getting, my bang for the buck. Because you think about how many people have to get paid and how many people are actually touching that packet. Well, a lot less now. We're so modernized, and we got robots doing everything. They process letters at 1,000 a minute now, so you don't have a lot of people touching the letters. So I can't say people touching anymore. It's just changed. When I first started 22 years ago, I spent 3 or 4 hours in the office putting up mail in order, and then maybe 3 hours delivering it. Now I spend maybe an hour putting up mail and 6 to 7, sometimes 8 hours delivering it, because I get mail that's already in order. It's ready to go, ready to be delivered. I just basically got to sort through packages and some of the magazines. So that's why I'm ready to retire. Getting too much time on the street. It's hard on the body. So again, I'm not angry about this. I just want to inform people, those of you that think, man, the postal rates are high, but think about how many people are getting paid by that. And I know, I think Minnie's a truck driver, matter of fact. So Minnie, I don't know if you've ever hauled mail, but you got to get paid too as a truck driver. And I know there's a bunch of other guys that are truck drivers, Styrene Junkie. Trying to think, there's a guy out of Kansas City, big, what's his name? Can't even think of it. Going to the brain stall. That's part about being old, right? Lazy eye. So that's part of the reason why the price of postage is so high, and for actually what you're getting your money's worth. So guys, peace out. See you later.